Welcome back to our SF Hour with Raj. I'm your host, Splash, or Ryan, whatever you want to call me. How's it going, Raj?
I'm good, man. Been busy. Couldn't make it last week, but less than 2 weeks before the draft, man. I'm ready to roll. I just wish it was the draft already. I'm tired of all the
Yeah,
nonsense, the
amen to
rumors
that.
and everything. But I'm good.
That's great to hear. And I know I was in the work chat the other day. It's like we're all tired of the draft. We're all tired of Lawrence, Wilson, quarterback to San Francisco. It's tiring, and I'm like so ready to like do prospect like draft recaps. For all the sites I work for. Like I'm ready to do like, oh, I think that's an A plus, B minus, C plus, F minus. It's like, but we're not there yet. 12 more days until draft day in Cleveland. Super exciting times. We know what's going to happen at 1. We know what's going to happen at 2, probably. And both of us have made it very clear what we want to happen at 3. And it's not this guy that I'm about to pop up on the screen. It's not him. I know 98% of NFL teams think the 49ers are going to draft Mac Jones.
No.
Hopefully not. For the sake of like football, like even if I was a Rams fan or a Seahawks fan or a Cardinals fan, like I understand you might have like we want the San Francisco to be bad. For the good of football, we need Kyle Shanahan to have a competent quarterback. No disrespect to Mac Jones, but you don't trade up 9 spots and several first-round picks for Mac Jones.
I agree. We've been saying this. Me and you've been saying this. 49ers Twitter been saying this. Majority of people have been saying this, that you don't trade up from 12 to 3 to get Mac Jones. And it's no disrespect. I think he's a solid quarterback. I've watched the film, and I know he's good. And I know he's been on a great team in Alabama with all the weapons and this and that. Like, he's a good player. There's no doubt about it. But it just doesn't move the scale for me. He doesn't, like, make you think, oh, man, Mac Jones, And I feel like he's just one of these guys that you could get after number 3. I mean, that's just what I think. And I don't think that's the guy that Kyle Shanahan wants to build a future for. His ceiling is not as high as a guy like Trey Lance or Justin Fields. And, that's what the consensus is. And it's funny because that report came out, 98% of GMs think that, Mac Jones is the pick. They don't have any clue what the Niners are going to do. They have about as much of a clue as me and you, So I think this has been a crazy offseason. The smoke screens, all the assumptions. People never know. They're always guessing. We've talked about it a couple of years back. Quinnen Williams, everybody thought that was going to be Quinnen Williams instead of Nick Bosa. Nobody saw Brandon Ayuk going to the Niners, So every year it's the same thing, and I think it's going to be the same again. There was another report a couple of days ago before that 98%, and it was like, I think it was like multiple scouts. It was on KNBR. Multiple scouts think that the Mac Jones to San Francisco rumors are a bit strange or something. And then like 2 days later, it was the 98% of them. So it's like, okay, which one is it? It's like, do you guys think it's weird? Or does it 98% of you guys think it's Mac Jones? And then all of a sudden there was a report the other day from the BR betting that said Justin Fields is now the number 1 choice for the number 3 pick for the Niners. So every day it changes, man. So who knows?
Yeah, you're a blog writer, you got to get those clicks. You're not going to get clicks saying Justin Fields to San Francisco. You're going to get clicks saying why Mac Jones is the perfect fit for the Shanahan offense. It's like, what? Like, I get that you need your money to like buy drugs so you can come up with these crazy headlines, but at a certain point, like, come on now. Like, as a writer in my own right, write quality content, write content that is logical. Like when I make my power rankings and I get death threats for putting the 49ers above the Bills. Because people I actually believe they're that good. I'm not going to just, we're going to put Cincinnati at 6. No, I make these logical. I think they're logical. I make these logical choices.
Yeah.
Like, man, I got so many, you're dumb. I was getting DMs from random people.
I can imagine, man. Because whenever you make like ranking and stuff, people take it so personally. And especially like if you're passionate fan base, you're going to come out. Like Niner fans, when we get low rankings, most of the time Niner fans are in my DMs. Can you believe? Did you see this? You got to post this. Let's everybody know. It's funny though, but that's just the off season. Like you say, clicks and likes. And reporters have things to report. TV shows need things to report. So it's all fun. It's all off season content. And then at the end of the day, we always find out what the truth is when the day comes. So it's just all fun and games until then. But like we said at the opening hour, that the fun and games is starting to get not so much fun anymore because it's the same thing every day. It's Mac Jones, it's Justin Fields at 3. It's like the same stuff. So, like you said too, you're ready for seeing. You're ready to grade the. You're ready to see who goes where. I'm so ready, man. I just wish we could skip past these 12 days.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to like load up NFL shop with potential jerseys that I'm not actually going to buy because I'm a broke college student. But you know, like I want to see, and with the number changes this year, that's going to be so exciting. Like as soon as that passes, and some guys like announce I'm switching to whatever. Like Hollywood's not going to switch to 5, I hope, but he's the first one that comes to mind. If he switches to 5, that's a cool jersey. Or Dobbins switches to 2, that's a cool jersey.
Well, Debo for the Niners, he wants to switch to 1. He's made it pretty vocal, but he's been on his IG and he's posted a jersey swap of him wearing the 1 because in college he wore the number 1. His whole IG and Twitter handle used to be Uno Captain, the number 1. And then I remember when he came to the NFL and he asked everybody, what should my new number be? And there was like 19, so he was 19 problems. But if Niners, if the rule gets passed, Justin Fields, let's say they draft Justin Fields, right? And you got Debo. Debo wants to wear the number 1. Justin Fields was the number 1 in college. You might have a little number controversy. Somebody has to pay a little bit of money, something. So Justin Fields, the rrookie, might have to pay up some cash.
Oh my goodness! I'm sure Debo might just rake in the dough right there because he sells it to Ayuk and then's like, no, actually I'm going to sell it to Justin. It's like, wow, that could be.
It could be a fun thing to see because they were commenting about that about a week or two ago when I think Bleacher Report, they posted up, can you imagine players wearing a different number? They showed Kittle in his 46 jersey, right, that he wore in college, but he was wearing it in a Niner. He commented, he's like, oh, it doesn't look right. Brandon Ayuk was like, he told Brandon Ayuk, oh, but could I get that at number 11? Ayuk was like, no way, man, you got to pay me like. He said something. He's
like $11K
for it. Yeah, it's like $11K or something. And then Debo's like, y'all can have that nonsense. I want number 1. So they were getting into that money, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because that's just, I love to see like athletes like act as like humans, like that kind of thing. Like these numbers have sentimental value. It's like if I were an athlete, I would want to wear 19. I'm sure if you were an athlete, you would want to wear a particular number, right?
Yeah, my favorite number is number 8, so I'd be rolling with number 8.
Yeah, it's like obviously we don't have the funds to pay $11 million to wear a jersey number, but hey, that like first world problems, like I think that's cool. Like I know it's kind of like celebrity gossip, like when you buy like one of those like magazines that certain celebrity is breaking up. It's like sports gossip is very cool to me. So
yeah.
Speaking of the draft, speaking of Mr. Brandon Ayuk, if I had to give you an over/under bet, so April 29th, first round of the draft, over/under, how many picks will San Francisco make? Over/under 1.5.
You know what, man? We talked about this, and I've talked about this a couple times live and stuff, and I honestly can see them making the over and having 2 picks on that first night because John Lynch, he's an aggressive type GM, and especially this offseason, he's really shown, like, I'm going all in. I'm going to make the best moves for my team, and if he wants to target someone, and he has to move up in the first round, he'll do it. He's done it so many times. He did it last season. Brandon Ayuk, like you said, perfect example.
Absolutely.
Reuben Foster a couple years back, he's done it, man. He makes trades on draft day. And I honestly, if I had to put a percentage, I'm going to say like 70% that the Niners trade up and make a move in the first round. I have a gut feeling that they're just not done. And especially this offseason, they've been just making moves. All the signings they had to get on the free agency. Nobody expected them to get most of those players like we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Nobody expected them to make that number 3 pick. Nobody expected all of this stuff that's happening. So I can see it happening,
Absolutely. And I think Caleb Farley has thrown like a interesting wrench into this scenario because he's a guy you probably were targeting at 12, right? And now with the injury concerns, he's going to be dropping. And I made this point on a show the other day that if you're really concerned about the injuries, like this is the 1 year, this year and last year, the 1 years that no one really knows what these injury deals are. I mentioned Ashton Davis. He fell probably 2 rounds because no one knew what the injury was going to be.
Yeah.
And Caleb Farley is going to be a similar case of, if you think he is a top 20 player, you should take him, because medical red flags this year I don't think mean as much as they do in other years. Like if you had, say, Montez Sweat a couple years ago had the heart condition, or Maurice Hurst from Oakland, now Vegas, just got cut. Like he had the heart condition and fell 3 rounds. Nowadays, if you have that heart condition this year, it might just go undetected. So every draft pick is that much more riskier. And I don't know, if you're San Francisco, you have the 11th pick in the second round, and you see Caleb Farley slipping 25, 27, 29, you make a move for him. I understand the concerns, the back injury, that's nothing to play with, but if you can get at least maybe 1% sure that he's going to be totally healthy in the NFL, I think you take it. And this is teams can really screw up when they don't go after a guy like Farley. And I had Farley as cornerback 2 on my board, really fluctuating with Surtain and even Horn. Like, I think all 3 are very talented, and I think San Francisco would be making a mistake if they don't at least explore the options. Now, if they have like injury red flag on on Farley, okay, but I don't know. I feel like he's a risk worth taking if you can trade up and you're not using your number 12 pick on him, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And there's a lot of guys in that kind of same boat that are going to slip because, when the first 3 picks are quarterbacks, and then maybe more, let's say there's going to be 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 10, which very likely could be. That's a lot of players that are going to slide because of that. Some great talent, a lot of defensive players are going to slide, I think. And, when you have wide receivers being taken high and Kyle Pitts, tight end, taken high, that just drops a little bit more on some of these really good defensive players. They start sliding. And then, you start throwing in guys that might have some injury risks, or and last year was a weird year in college sports and in all sports because of the COVID and everything. A lot of players opted out. So then you have people forgetting about players, and then they weren't able to play or showcase themselves. So you're like, oh, well, I don't know. There's not a lot of tape on a guy. Is he going to be that good? So they start falling. There's a lot of guys that are going to slip, and you're right. If there's a guy, Caleb Farley is a perfect example, and let's say he's starting to slip, and you're like, holy crap, he might be there. Let's not take any chances. Let's go snag him, And I think that's why I say 70%, because I think Lynch and Shanahan, they're going to sit there and say, hey, look, this is a guy we like. He's slipping. We can't let this slide any further. And they've shown that they've done that before, and that was Reuben Foster, perfect example. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because of all the, other issues he had. But when they saw him slipping, because of those, it was like injury concerns, off-field concerns, all the issues that people were looking into, the Niners were like, hey, look, we got to get this guy. He's probably one of the most talented players in the league. They traded up with no question. And if that's something that they want to look into this season, if Caleb Farley is high on their board and he slips, which he very well could be, it's definitely an option that they could look into. And we've talked about this before. Cornerback is an issue that they might, they definitely need to look into. I know they re-signed Manny Mosley. I know they re-signed Jason Verrett and K'Wan Williams, but K'Wan and Jason, only 1-year deals, and then after that you got Mosley. You still need a cornerback, a really good cornerback, that you could kind of keep in there for years, for at least a couple years, develop, make him into a franchise corner. Farley's a perfect example. If he is a little hurt, you have time to let him rest and recover while Mosley and Verrett play, and then he can get himself right. Then boom, you put in, Farley next year, and you're sitting pretty.
Absolutely. And when you put a guy in an NFL locker room, an NFL, medical room, even, like, I don't want to take a crap on Farley went to Virginia Tech. I don't want to take a crap on Virginia Tech's medical capabilities, but the San Francisco 49ers probably have better facilities than a college team, and I think you're going to get, yes, of course it's a risk, but Farley's the kind of guy you take a risk on. You take a risk on a guy that was maybe a top 10, top 12 prospect. We've seen risks pay off in the past. We've seen risks bomb in the past. We've seen Rock Kimdichie in your own division. Uber talented player, but off the field concerns dropped him at the end of the first round. Didn't work out in the NFL. We saw it with Jeffrey Simmons a couple years ago. Tore his ACL right before the draft, or right at the end of the season before the draft. he's a guy that's might be the most talented player in the darn draft class, and he went at number 19 to Tennessee, and he's been really darn good for Tennessee. So if you take a guy, I understand the injury risk, but you're putting him with like the highest level doctors you have available, and I think there's a way you get a perennial Pro Bowler out of Farley, and you're taking Farley over. I mean, who are you grabbing at the 43rd pick? Like Greg Newsome. He might go a little earlier. I really like him.
I like Newsome. Yeah.
Like, there's some really good corners in this draft, but I think it's fair to say that Farley is at least cornerback 2. You can argue he's cornerback 1. You could argue Horn's better than both, but
yeah,
he's a top 3 corner for a reason.
He is. He's definitely top 3. I mean, and you're right. This year's cornerback class is so good, man. I definitely want a corner pretty early because I want one of these guys because they look pretty damn elite. Horn, Surtain. I don't know if we'll get one of those guys. Farley might slip. Newsome's good. The 2 guys from Georgia, Stokes and what's the other guy? I can't think of
Tyson Campbell.
Yeah, those 2 guys are solid. And then you have Asante Samuel Jr., man. Oh, his stock's rising high. I really like Asante. If he slips to 43 and he's there, they got posted this the other day. I said, hey, if Asante Samuel is number 40 is still there, available at number 43, would you? And of course, the Niner fans would. And if he's sitting at 43, I think the Niners have to take a guy like Asante Samuel. But again, also too, there's a lot of wide receivers that they can use because I know they have Debo and Ayuk, but imagine throwing in another third guy, a slot guy, or somebody that could step in because they did lose KB. KB's a solid guy, and he was a pretty good red zone target and a first down chain mover. Get another wide receiver, Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore. There's certain guys that can target, but right here, rolling the tape here with Asante Samuel, man, this guy, he has the bloodlines, and with K'Wan Williams only there for 1 year right now, we don't know if he's going to come back after this year. This would be a perfect guy to be mentored by K'Wan Williams and be your next big time nickel corner. And with the way that the NFL game is played, nickel cornerback is such an important position compared to what it was 10, 20 years ago, man. Nickel quarterback is pretty much the starting spot now.
Yeah, because nowadays nickel is the new base, and every team besides Seattle, for the most part, uses nickel like 80% of the time, something like that.
Yeah.
So you're more likely to have, as far as I know, a lot of teams run a 4-2-5. So you're having your fifth, either your third corner, third safety, slot guy, whatever you want to call him. You have 5 defensive backs on the field, regardless of the first 6 personnel. You're going to play a lot more defensive backs than you would even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And now you're trying to put – there's so many weapons at running back. There's so many weapons at wide receiver. There's so many weapons at tight end. And you just need matchup – like you have matchup problems on offense. You want matchup solutions on defense. This is why you go get Samuel. You go get – a guy like Trevon Moehrig out of TCU as a safety.
Man. Yeah,
you get these uber talented players.
Elijah Molden out of Washington. I like that guy. Andre Siska out of Syracuse. Like, there's just so many great talented players that they can move around and get. They could drop, or again, if they really feel like they have to get them, they can move up and get. But you're right, because like you said, you want to on offense, you're trying to create matchup problems, but you're trying to do the same on defense. You're trying to say, hey, look, we want to create problems where you can't line up against our defense. You need to figure out how you're going to get past some of these defenders. We have such great elite cornerbacks. Your wide receivers can't handle that. So
and then when you have a guy like All-Pro Fred Warner, you're really because he's essentially he's athletic as a safety, but he's playing linebacker, so he's going to be dominant in the run game. Eddie's as good as anyone is in coverage.
Monster. He's a monster, man. I hope. Yeah. Eventually, one of these days, me and you are going to have to be talking about when he eventually gets that contract extension. Hopefully, it's sooner rather than later. Maybe this summer, but that's definitely something that's got to be coming up after the draft. After the draft chatter drops down, I think that's the next big move. Is you got to pay Fred, man. You can't let him go without being paid this summer. We talked about that before.
Yeah. And we've talked about like linebackers are not as valuable, or running backs are not as valuable, safeties, whatever. Pick a position and it's not as valuable. But if there's any team in the league that needs like a all-world linebacker, it's San Francisco. Same thing with George Kittle. You pay George Kittle. I don't care that he's a tight end. He is the best blocking tight end in the NFL and is as good as any receiving tight end in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't just grow on trees. Like New England wasn't going to be like, hey, Rob Gronkowski, you're just a tight end. We're
Yeah.
just not going to pay you. Kyle Pitts isn't just a tight end. He's as good as any receiver prospect I've seen.
Yeah, he's a beast.
You know, so you're looking at a lot of. You pay Kittle, you already did. You're going to pay Fred Warner, and it's going to be a good deal. Like I know linebackers aren't as important, but a guy linebacker as good as Fred Warner, absolutely,
it's absolutely
essential.
critical. He and for the Niners defense, he's like the quarterback of that defense,
Right.
and he is, as good as linebackers are against the run and things like that. And like you said, a lot of times people don't think linebackers are that good, or they're not as valued as much in the league. I feel like the way that the game is now, you get a guy like Fred Warner, he's so critical because it's like you said, he can play like a safety at linebacker. He's good in coverage. He's so good in coverage, and that's what separates him from so many of these linebackers. Is how many picks have we seen Warner get or almost get over the last couple of years? It's like, man, without him, the defense wouldn't be where they were. Like last season, all the injuries, and he still kept this defense in the top 10. He was just so good. That All-Pro season he had. Like it was like a couple years back, the Jared Goff interception. Like those types of plays are what's so important, and he's so critical to this defense. And with D'Amico Ryans now becoming a big part of this. Team now as the defensive coordinator. He's a former linebacker himself. I really think that with D'Amico there, he's going to make Fred Warner even a bigger part of this defense. Because he knows how linebackers play and move around in the defense. So I really feel like Fred Warner is going to have an even bigger role this season. It's going to be crazy. I think he's just going to take off. And then Drake Greenlaw too. So, and the Niners historically over the last 10, 20 years, they've been really known for great linebacker play. Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, even Takeo Spikes, et cetera through the years. So they've had some really good with Chris Borland for a year. I remember that guy.
Yeah, that was sad. Yeah, I mean, San Francisco is gonna. We talk a lot about the offense. We spend probably way too much time about the quarterback situation. We talk a lot about Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, the running game with Shanahan. But the defense, that's what really made the difference in, say, 2019. Yeah, San Francisco had a great offense. They were, I believe, second in scoring, which is wildly impressive when Patrick Mahomes is in the NFL.
Yeah.
But the defense was, I believe, top 6 in both scoring and total defense. And it was a little skewed because of the New Orleans game, which you won anyways. So you're looking at, this is going to be a top 10 caliber defense. And that's even if Garoppolo is the quarterback or Mac Jones is the quarterback. Whatever happens on offense, the defense should be very good. I know there's no more Salah as DC, but D'Amico Ryans should be a solid replacement there. And it's interesting to see how much of the 2020 or 2019, 2020 49ers defense is Salah's scheme versus talented players. I'm leaning a lot towards the talented players. You have Warner, you're getting Nick Bosa back. The defense is loaded. It's like, yeah, you might lose that edge maybe that you had with Salah, but you're talking, there's talented players everywhere. And at a certain point, if you have 11 talented players on defense, you're going to have a good defense. It doesn't matter who's the DC, but D'Amico Ryans looks like he's going to be competent at least.
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to be solid. He's been waiting for this moment, waiting in the wings. He's been with the team for several years, the linebacker coach. I think he's been waiting, like I said, for this opportunity. And with Salah leaving, big loss. But I think he knew that this defense was going to be in good hands with D'Amico. I'm excited for him. Great defensive player in his year, great defensive mind. He's helped develop Warner and Greenlaw, so it's like, he's got the talent and Al Shahir. And like you said, this defense is just so much talent. And they've added players like Samson Ebicam. He's been showing what he's been doing over the offseason. He looks like he's really bulking up, getting ready. You got Zach Kerr. They added him, big boy on the D-line. Man, this guy is a big boy. I like him. I like him being back in there. They brought back DJ Jones. So this defense looks like it's really going to be just intense again this season. And again, as much as we talk about that offense, you can't forget about the defense. That's why I posted that the other day. Like, don't forget about the defense. Everybody's talking about the offense. We know Shanahan is going to bring it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget about the defense. And going back to offense though for a second, one thing that a lot of people haven't talked about, but I kind of see in the draft, since we talked about draft today, is I think they might get another running back somewhere in the I don't know if it's going to be early, but at least in the middle round, I think they might add a running back somewhere because I know Raheem's there. I know they got Jeff Wilson, but injuries have been big. They really need to make sure that they safeguard themselves for injuries. Even Jermichael Hasty last season, broke the collarbone. I think they're going to get a pretty solid running back. I can kind of see. I was doing my mock for this week, and I think it's going to be Chuba Hubbard. I think they might make a move and get Chuba Hubbard, and that would be so good on this. Oh, man, can you imagine a guy like that on this Niners offense with Shanahan? Because Shanahan has such a good ability, him and Bobby Turner, the running backs coach, in developing running backs. I think if they get a guy like Chuba, watch out, man. It's going to be scary.
Yeah, that's scary. And one of his concerns in college was like huge workload at Oklahoma State. And when you go to San Francisco, you don't have to worry about the workload. This isn't an Alabama player that like is overused at Alabama, then you like run him into the ground in 3 years. If there's any running back system in the NFL that you want to be in as a running back, it's the Shanahan system.
Yeah.
Because there's, at least when I watch film on San Francisco, there are a lot of easy runs. There are a lot of like the scheme is perfect, the line blocks, and you have 6 yards that are just essentially free. And that, as a running back, you might love the 90-yard breakaway touchdowns, you might love juking out half the team, but when you get easy yards, that's what makes your job. That's what turns you from like 20 carries to get 55 yards to 20 carries to get 125 yards. And that's what really, when you're San Francisco, the easy yards, you turn a 1st and 10 into a 2nd and 3. You turn your 2nd and 4s into first downs. You turn your 3rd and 2s into first downs. Like that's how good offenses move the football. And San Francisco is as good as any team in the league at moving the ball on the ground. You have great blocking. You get Kittle back for a full year. You bring back all-pro caliber Trent Williams.
And Kyle Juszczyk, because he's just
absolutely
as important as Kittle in the blocking game. And you're right, with this run game, it's so efficient. The run blocking is so good. That zone run blocking scheme is so good. It makes this whole offense efficient. And then it opens up that pass game, the play action game. And Alex Mack, who we've talked about a lot this offseason, who, like I said a couple weeks ago, that was my favorite move of the offseason for this team. Alex Mack's going to really help. And I think this run blocking is going to be even better. And like you said, the perfect point you made was, this is the best system for any running back because you don't have to be overused. You can be, get 10 carries here. One guy's going to get 5 carries. One guy's going to get 6. All their legs are going to stay fresh. It's a nice rotation, and they all have that ability to make a 2-yard run into 10, like you said, and then just keep extending the drive. And then you wear down the defense. They're tired. And then when they're tired and loading up 8 men in the box, you start throwing on them. So it's perfect. It's scheme, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's going to be scary to see. Like, we've seen, now no disrespect to the current backs, but we haven't really seen like a superstar caliber back in the San Francisco run game. And with the devaluing of running backs, that Hubbard could be like a star caliber player, but you're going to get him in the 4th round. You're going to get him in the 5th round. You might even get him in the 6th round. I don't know where he's going right now in mock drafts, but you're going to get a guy potentially with your 4th round pick. Maybe you trade up a few spots, get into the comp area. You're looking at you could have a all-pro caliber season from a random running back just with the scheme. You get a guy with the tools. Maybe he was underutilized in college. Maybe he needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, San Francisco can provide that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, And you have the blocking, you have the scheme itself, and you're getting like any little bit of speed. You watched it with Jermichael Hasty. He's a guy that may not be the most refined running back ever, might not be the most talented running back ever, but he has juice. Raheem Mostert has juice, and he has a record-setting performance in the biggest game in your last 10 years of your franchise.
Yeah.
And like it's scary to see. It would be scary to see like a super talented running back in San Francisco. You're talking like maybe 2,000 yards if he gets enough touches.
Yeah, I honestly, you get a guy like that, man, and put him into this offense, it's dangerous. A guy that, man, it's just going to be scary. And then it'll make Mostert have a better season, and it'll make everybody else have a better season. So, and the things that Shanahan and Bobby Turner, like I said, do with running backs, it's scary. I can't imagine if they added a guy like that. I really have a feeling they're going to get a running back that's like, wow, I can't believe that, because there was reports a few weeks ago that the Niners were really looking into Najee Harris, and he told them like he thought he was going to be drafted by the Niners until they made that trade. So it kind of makes me think like, yeah, they're looking at running back. When you're looking at a guy like Najee Harris, of course you got to do your due diligence, and who wouldn't look at a guy? But when you start looking at guys like that, you're targeting a running back at some point in this draft earlier, because most of the time Shanahan waits late. He'll try to get those undrafted guys. But I think this year he's like, let me get a guy that's a little bit earlier, or we can steal. Again, because the Niners have a lot of fifth-round draft gems. Kittle, Dre Greenlaw. And maybe you're right. Maybe like you said, maybe if you get a guy like Chuba Hubbard in the fifth round, oh, man, you just there's your draft steal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I mean, you might not go running back round 2. Like, no. Harris is probably off the board. ETN, I don't know. Shout out to friend of the show, Devontae Williams. Maybe Michael Carter, maybe. And I'm totally blanking on the Kenneth Gainwell. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, one of those guys would be good. Yeah,
they're very talented, but maybe you don't want to use the 43rd pick in the draft on them, right?
I mean, it would definitely be a spicy pick. It definitely would be fun to see, like a guy like Javonte. Oh, man. Imagine. You guys interviewed him the other day. I saw that.
Yeah, we did.
Man. That was cool. Good stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Cool. And that activated Siri on my laptop. Great.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Wow. Anyways, Javonte Williams, uber talented guy to North Carolina. Shout out to Tyler Weber in the chat. Javonte Williams or Michael Carter from North Carolina are ballers. Absolutely. It's just, do you want to use your second round pick on him? Maybe you trade back a little bit, get some, like, if say, I would have to imagine you use the second round pick if you trade up into the first round. I don't know. Maybe you trade up for Najee. That was
something a lot of people are thinking too. Is like, oh, what if they trade up for not? Like, it's crazy. We did so I've done 2 like mock drafts over the last couple of weeks with on my IG. So 1 week we do the quad box. We do our Friday show, right? So I had me and some of the other guys that are normally in it. We did our own mock draft, right? And then last night we did a fan voted mock draft, and we had the fans vote on every pick, from 1 to 32 in the first round. And they had voted that the Niners make a trade at 15. They send Jimmy G to the Patriots. They ship out the number 43 pick, and they move up to 15. And last night, actually, their pick was J.C. Horn. But then, like, half of the chat wanted – it was almost half. It was almost 50-50. But Horn went out. It was, like, Najee Harris. And then the other type of the group wanted J.C. Horn. So that'd be crazy if it happened. But, I mean, it's something that could. You're right. Maybe they do trade up for Najee Harris. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we mentioned it earlier that some teams value positions more than other teams. And if you're San Francisco, you might value a bell cow sort of running back more than another team. I don't know, Arizona might not want Najee Harris at 16, but San Francisco, if they were picking 16th, they might say Najee Harris is higher on our draft board. He might be worthwhile taking. And I think that's one thing that makes it really hard to do these mock drafts, because we all have these perceptions of the players and we all have these perceptions of these teams. And like, it boils down to, I don't know what the 49ers are thinking. Neither of us know what the 49ers are thinking. Neither of us know, like, pick any team. And we probably don't have much of an idea of what they're thinking. We can like get a grasp of what they're doing, but at a certain point, like, oh, he looks like a Packers player.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know he looks like a Packers player? Like, oh, well, I talked to Alex on the show the other day. Shout out to Lambeau Leapers. Like, well, Green Bay has this type of wide receiver they like to get, this type of corner they like to get. And then Jair Alexander is very much not the type of corner they usually get, and he's an all-pro guy. So maybe you get a guy like Jair, or you get a guy like you traditionally get, or Baltimore likes these big, strong edge defenders that are more pocket pushers than like actually good at pass rushing. But like, so Cam Sample out of Tulane would be a great pick. But is Baltimore going to go down that avenue? Do they want to go do something different? And it's all sketchy.
It's like you said when we opened up at the beginning of the show. It's nobody really knows, and everybody's guessing. That's what makes offseason the best. Is same thing with the Niners. Everybody always says, "Oh, that's the Shanahan type guy. This is Kyle's guy. This is a Niners type guy." It's like, especially when wide receiver, they get those yak type guys. Those slippery wide receivers like Debo and things like that. And so when they're looking at receivers, they're like, oh, what if they're probably going to get this guy because it fits their mold? But maybe they don't go after the typical guy. Maybe they get somebody different that's like, oh, wow, this is something they don't have, because maybe they do want to add a different element. And I think that's where it goes going all the way back to quarterback again. See, everything comes back to quarterback. Is everybody's saying Mac Jones is, Shanahan's prototype. He's like Kirk Cousins. He's like that Matt Ryan type quarterback. And that's why I think a lot of people are saying, that's why it makes sense that Mac's the guy, because that's what Kyle Shanahan historically has had. But in his press conference, he says, look, I'm not looking for a prototype. And that is not necessarily true. So he said he wants the biggest, fastest, the strongest, most elite quarterback. And again, we're all guessing and we're making assumptions based off, like you said, what the patterns are on most teams. So you have to go off something, and it makes sense that you go off those patterns. But hey, sometimes they throw the wool over our eyes and we're completely surprised. Like last year, nobody thought Brandon Ayuk was going to the Niners, man. Everybody thought it was going to be CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy. So we'll see.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of like confirmation bias, like you see, Ayuk, Ayuk's not on anyone's radar, and then San Francisco picks him, and then everyone's, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's great after the catch. It's like, what? 2 weeks ago,
nobody knew, bro.
You had no idea how to pronounce Ayuk, let alone what he was going to do with 49ers.
Didn't even know what school he went to. Half these people, I was like,
oh my goodness,
it's so funny, man. Yeah, it's funny because after the fact, after the draft, people come, oh well, I knew, there was, I kind of had a feeling, I just didn't report. I was like, no, you just say you don't know. Like, the funniest thing is like Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, because they're kind of, it's like, they don't know, but they want to make it like they kind of have a sense, but they're also giving themselves some room for clearance if they get it wrong. Because, on April 9th, we did report that it could be, it's funny. So I think I tweeted it, and then a couple other, there's been a lot of people that it's funny. And then Eric Davis, actually, former 49ers cornerback, he said, it's okay to say that you don't know what the pick is going to be. It's okay. Like, it's okay. Yeah, if you're like the biggest insider in the world, it's okay if you don't know. And I remember I tweeted that under the post. I was like, dude, it's okay to say you don't know. It's funny.
And it's okay to be wrong. This is one of the conversations I've had with like my coworkers, my people I work, really anyone. It's okay to be wrong. Like I've been wrong before. I'm going to be wrong again. I said the Chiefs were guaranteed to win the Super Bowl last year. That didn't happen. The year before I said New England was guaranteed to win the Super Bowl. That didn't happen. I've screwed up a lot of things. I've gotten plenty of things right. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Marquise Brown pick when it happened. And I said before the draft, I don't want Marquise Brown in the Ravens. Like, nice player. He might be the most talented guy ever, but I don't want him in Baltimore. I want DK Metcalf. Would you look at that?
Look at that, right? Who knows? I mean, we can go on and on about things that we predicted that were wrong or right or should have been, and everybody has them. And that's what happens. These guys make predictions, and then a couple weeks go on, they're wrong, but they go about it. Same thing with us. We make our predictions. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're right. You're like, oh, look, you should have listened. But hey, that's sports media, man, and everybody has their opinions, and that's what makes it great. But
absolutely,
we'll find out in 12 days. So.
Yes, we will, and we will find. Wow, I can't talk. We will find out in 12 days. It's going to be a super exciting time for the Stadium Live Network and for every team, outside of the Texans, because they just want to trade their first-round picks for everyone but good players. Shout out to Laramie Tunsil, although he is pretty good at the whole football thing. So, so I think there's, I believe, 29 teams that have a first-round pick. So you throw out Seattle, the Rams, and Houston, right? Everyone else is a first-round pick?
Yeah.
If you're one of those teams, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait till April 30th. But if you're one of the 29 teams that has a first-round pick, as of right now at least, it's what a time to be alive. If you're a Jags fan, Jets fan, 49ers fan, maybe Carolina. Well, I guess Carolina traded for Darnold, so I guess they have a little bit of a new era, just in a different way. Yeah. But exciting times, and big stuff coming on with the UCM Live Network. We're going to have some draft shows coming up. Got some spiciness. I know Frankie and Nick for sure are going to be doing timeout the day of the draft a little bit earlier. It'll be the same time, but a little before the start of the draft. We're going to try to do some live content during the draft. I'm going to see how that goes. But it's going to be spicy. Do you have any final words before we wrap it up?
No, not today. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to cover. Just 12 more days. Hold on to your seats. There's still going to be a lot more rumors until the draft as usual. But like I said, I'm just patiently waiting for this draft to get here, man. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the UCIDM YouTube, Follow U Stadium on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Raj at OurSF 49ers. And follow me at Mr. Splashman19, Insta, Twitter, whatever. Although Twitter's been down the last couple days.
Yeah, man, it's killing me. It's killing my
What
body.
the heck?
Usually Twitter is the one that doesn't go down, and it's IG, and Twitter's kind of slacking. So, actually, I got one more thing to say before we wrap this up. So on Wednesday, Wednesday's my birthday, happy birthday to me. On Wednesday,
Happy birthday.
5:00 p.m. Pacific, so it's 8:00 Eastern, I'm going to be going live with Adam Rank, the world famous Adam Rank. We're going to be talking
Denver Broncos favorite.
Yeah, at Niners favorite. It's funny that I'm actually going with him because you remember a couple years back, he had the 3-13 prediction for the Niners, and they killed him on it. They grilled him, and he sparked the whole Pretenders, moniker and everything. So, but yeah, he's a good guy, man. So we're gonna sit down, talk football, and maybe chat it up about the draft. So if people want to tune into that, 5:00 p.m. Pacific on Instagram on Wednesday the 21st. So
awesome. Yeah, I know Denver fans hate him.
Nine fans do too, and I'm talking to him. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, because there's a year that I thought Denver could maybe make a playoff run, and then he's like, they're gonna go 12-4 or 2-14. It's like, what? he was closer to being right than I was, to be fair. Although, and I guess now with Drew Lock, oh Lord, that's.
They got to trade up for Trey, man. They need to trade up for Trey.
Yeah, that's if I'm John Elway, or I forget who they just named general manager, but if I'm banging the table, trade up Trey Lance, trade up Trey Lance, trade up, because you're not punting Drew Lock. You're saying Drew Lock, you still have a chance, because we're not going to start Trey year one. You still got a chance. You can figure it out. If not, we have a guy in waiting that's going to probably be better at football than you. And of course, Drew Lock wasn't like a first-round pick guy, anyways. No. So I think Denver might be more willing to move on than, say, I don't know, if Miami screws up the Tua thing. Yeah. Miami might be like, he's our number 5 pick. We use so much draft capital. It's the sunk cost fallacy. Whatever.
Yeah. Miami would take a bigger L as compared to Denver. I don't think that they're as pot committed to a guy like Drew because he wasn't a high first-round pick. So it's like if they make a move, trade up for Trey Lance, you're basically telling Drew, like, your writing's on the wall. Your time's almost over.
Yeah. So you're trying to get the best you can out of Drew Lock, and if not, he's gone. If you do get him, hey, guess what? You just have a top 10 quarterback that you can trade. You have Drew Lock that just had a good year. You can trade. You have options. You're going to use a first-round pick, future firsts, like tons of future draft capital, trading up for quarterback. Well, if you have 2 competent ones, you might be able to get some of that draft capital back for the second one. And the draft time, it's batty. People go crazy. I'm sure there are agents, insiders, team scouts that are just like, I want this to be over. I want the dust to be settled. But we won't be able to see that dust begin to settle until April 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned until then. Make sure, again, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, because we have a lot of stuff, a lot of banger content coming out. So I think it's time to peace out and just I might go to sleep and just wait for 12 days. But
I wish I could. If I didn't work, I literally would just sleep in until the 29th.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, with that being said, peace out. We will be back next Saturday. Actually, that's before I get my second vaccine. So I will be alive. So that's good. But Saturdays in the future, maybe not. I could be dead. But next Saturday for sure. Next Saturday for sure. 3 p.m. Pacific for us. 6 p.m. Eastern for you lousy folks back on the East Coast. So peace out. We'll be back.